Welcome to Module 3 of the GTFCC online course on cholera surveillance for healthcare workers. In this module, we will dive into how to implement surveillance for the early detection of cholera outbreaks. While this module focuses on the specificities of cholera surveillance for the early detection of outbreaks, general principles for healthcare workers to implement cholera surveillance addressed in Module 2 also apply. These principles always apply. Therefore, if you have not yet already done so, we encourage you to take Module 2 of this course before taking this module. After completing this module, you will know how to implement surveillance for the early detection of a cholera outbreak, including how to identify patients with suspected cholera, which patients with suspected cholera to test, and how often to report patients with suspected cholera. Let's start with a refresher on cholera surveillance for the early detection of an outbreak. Surveillance is implemented for the early detection of a cholera outbreak when there is no ongoing cholera outbreak in a local geographic area. Health authorities regularly share information and updates on the local cholera situation. Make sure to stay up to date. That way, at any point in time, you will know the cholera situation in your local geographic area and know whether you should implement cholera surveillance for early detection. Implementing surveillance for the early detection of a cholera outbreak aims to permit the rapid implementation of response measures in order to reduce the spread of the outbreak and limit the number of cholera cases and deaths. To implement cholera surveillance for early detection, identify, test, and report any patient with suspected cholera in accordance with the recommendations of this module. This applies as long as no cholera outbreak is detected in your local geographic area. If an outbreak is detected in your geographic area, how to implement cholera surveillance evolves. We invite you to learn more about this in Modules 4 and 5. Let's see how to identify patients with suspected cholera when surveillance is for early detection. When surveillance is implemented for early detection, a suspected cholera case is any patient aged 2 years or older who has acute watery diarrhea, AWD, and severe dehydration, or any patient aged 2 years or older who died from AWD. If you are unsure about how to identify AWD or severe dehydration, we encourage you to go back to Module 2. Various diseases can cause AWD, especially in young children. That is why, in addition to AWD, criteria on age and dehydration apply. It is more likely that patients with AWD who meet these criteria do have cholera. Therefore, applying criteria on age and severe dehydration avoids triggering frequent false alarms for cholera. This makes the early detection system more efficient. Let's look into the testing of patients with suspected cholera when surveillance is for the early detection of a cholera outbreak. Importantly, when surveillance is for the early detection of a cholera outbreak, all patients who meet the definition of a suspected cholera case are tested for cholera. Testing all patients with suspected cholera is critical to determine whether or not cholera is circulating. If RDTs are available at your facility, use RDT to triage samples for laboratory testing. Test all patients who meet the definition of a suspected cholera case with a RDT. If the RDT result is negative, cholera is ruled out. If the RDT result is positive, collect samples and send them to a laboratory for confirmatory testing by culture or PCR. If RDTs are not available at your facility, collect samples from all patients who meet the definition of a suspected cholera case and send the samples to a laboratory for confirmatory testing. Lastly, let's look into the reporting of patients with suspected cholera. If a patient who meets the definition of a suspected cholera case is seen at your facility, collect standard information on this patient and report this information to your health authority within a day. Reporting any patient with suspected cholera within a day is essential in order not to delay the detection of a potential outbreak. Time is key for early detection. If you are unsure about the standard information that should be collected on patients with suspected cholera, we invite you to go back to Module 2. If on a given week, no patient meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case was seen in your facility, report the absence of cases to your health authority at the end of the week. This is zero reporting. To report patients with suspected cholera to your health authority, use the reporting channels and mechanisms in place at your facility. For example, there may be a reporting focal point. As we wrap up this module, here are the important points to remember. In local geographic areas where there is no cholera outbreak, surveillance aims to detect any cholera outbreak early so that it can be responded to rapidly. When surveillance is for the early detection of a cholera outbreak, any patient aged 2 years or older with AWD and severe dehydration or who died from AWD is a suspected cholera case. All patients meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case are tested for cholera. In addition, standard information is collected on all patients meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case. This information is reported within 24 hours. If no patient with suspected cholera was seen at a facility, this is reported on a weekly basis. Before moving on to the next module, we encourage you to take a short quiz. There are 3 questions in this quiz. Question 1. For the early detection of a cholera outbreak, a patient with suspected cholera is any patient. A. Age 2 years old or older with acute watery diarrhea, AWD. B. With AWD and severe dehydration. C. Age 2 years old or older with AWD and severe dehydration. D. With AWD. The correct answer is C. When surveillance is for early detection, criteria on age and dehydration level apply to identify patients with suspected cholera. Patients with suspected cholera are those aged 2 years old or older with AWD and severe dehydration. Question 2. Select all that apply. For the early detection of a cholera outbreak, A. Any patient with suspected cholera is reported daily. B. Any patient with suspected cholera is reported weekly. C. The absence of patient with suspected cholera is reported daily. D. The absence of patient with suspected cholera is reported weekly. The correct answers are A and D. When surveillance is for early detection, any patient meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case is reported daily, and the absence of patients meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case is reported weekly. Question 3. This is the last question. For the early detection of a cholera outbreak, any patient with AWD is tested for cholera. Is this A, true, or B, false? The correct answer is B, this is false. When surveillance is for early detection, any patient meeting the definition of a suspected cholera case is tested for cholera. However, this is not any patient with AWD since, in addition to AWD, criteria on age and dehydration level also apply. We have now completed this module.